Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to go over some reconstructions from my nationals averages. Before we start though, I just want to announce that I am non-sponsored by thecubicle.com. I'm really excited to finally be on part of the Team Cubicle. It's been a goal for a while and I'm very grateful that I've finally been able to be on the team. So I'll probably have some more details coming out about that soon, but for now let's just get into the solves. So this was the first scramble. This one was a 6-mover. The first thing that I saw is that here on white you can construct this H case, and then because the algorithm starts with R2 and then a U2, you can actually cancel a lot of moves here. So going into the canceling into the alg, I did a U prime, R, U, and then here during the algorithm you have the option to either do an R or an R prime, but here if you did an R prime, you'd have to do a U2 AUF. So I use either one of those algorithms. And in this case, I used the one with the R move, and then so that made it 6 moves, and I wouldn't have AUF, and so that solve was a 0.79. But there's also a few other ways that you could recognize that I could have recognized this solve too. So one of the things I could have recognized the cancel into this LEG1 because it's a 2 gen 1, so it would have been something like that. There's also a few other sides you can check, like if you did some anti-CLL, you could notice it like this. So, but it's just to point out, like, even if you see like a short solution, like on this side, if that's the first thing you checked was, oh, I can do something like this, make sure that you keep looking because there might be even a faster way to do the 4 and 5 mover that you found, as like this CLL here is way faster than doing that anti-CLL or EG2. For the second solve, I really didn't find anything too great. I was kind of nervous after starting right off with a 0.79. I mean, I tried a few things with this white face here. I saw this one first, which is eventually when I went back to, and I tried a few different ways to insert to make an EG1 face, like doing this. But really, I wasn't getting that any great cases here. I tried this TCLL2, and things weren't just working out that well. What I probably would have done now is something like this to get this nice case. But even if I had done that, it probably wouldn't have saved me too much time. The solution I did was okay, but it wasn't executed that well. Basically, I just did this 4-move EG1 face like I told you, and then I ended up doing an LEG1 with a decent case, but I didn't predict the AUF. So this was a 1.78. It could have been a little faster, like a 1.6 or so, but it ended up being my worst solve either way, so it didn't really make too much of a difference. So this next solve was another easy scramble. I ended up getting a 1.1 on it. The first thing I saw here was just going on yellow. I can do 3 moves into anti-soon, and I could also cancel a move by just canceling into that anti-soon alg. You could also check, instead of doing that 3 move, you could do this 4 moves into soon, and you could also cancel out a little if you wanted to. But I kind of saw that there were similar solutions, so I just went with the yellow, did the anti-soon, and I went a little conservative because that one isn't as finger tricky because of the cancellation. And so I ended up getting a 1.17. I could have done a little faster, but again, I was going a little safer just to make sure that I ended up getting a good counting solve after that one. So this was the 4th scramble. On this one, I immediately saw this TCLL layer already finished for me, and then I could do this pretty easy case and then be done with no AUF. But I made sure to keep looking because I thought there might be like a better way to do it. And so there was. On the blue side here, you can see that 2 moves to this, it's 2 moves to the CLL case, but if you do those first 2 moves, that's actually part of the algorithm. So from here you can just continue, and it was just like a few moves to basically finish with no AUF. So I went with that CLL solution, and I got a 1 flat on the solve. It was a little lucky, but again, I was going a little conservative to make sure I didn't mess it up. And so after that, I thought that it had already guaranteed the NAR average, but it actually rounded up from 131 to 132, so I needed to improve my worst solve by 0.01 in order to tie the North American record. So going into the last solve, I was pretty nervous, and right away I wasn't really finding anything that great because there wasn't too many like short layers or faces on this. I tried a few different things, working around this 2x1 bar here, different ways of inserting like these 2 white pieces or like these 2 green pieces to make some faces. And so it was nearing the end of inspection, and I just decided on doing this solution here on white. It was 6 moves, and then I did this CLL. So it wasn't a solution that was going to guarantee me an easy solve by any means. That solve that actually had my most TPS. It was like 10 point something, just because a lot of the other solves were pretty short and choppy. So on this average, I really wouldn't have gone for any different solutions. I just might have tried to turn a little faster on maybe the third and fourth scrambles to try to improve my average a little bit and go for the world record. But I obviously didn't know what the rest of the scrambles would be or how close my average would be, so I can't really blame myself for doing anything wrong there. So this was the first scramble. Because of like a miscommunication with my judge though, I ended up getting an extra here because basically he thought I was ready to start inspection when I wasn't. But so if I had done this scramble and properly, I would have done red here, probably just do like an LEG1 after a few moves. Would have been kind of like, it would have still been my slowest solution. To show you what I actually got on that scramble. This is the case that I actually got on my scramble. So what I ended up doing here, because there wasn't really too much else that gave a great case, I went on white here, did an EG2, and then just had no AUF. And so yeah, again, it would have been my worst solution, my worst solve either way. So it really wasn't that big of a deal that I got an extra. I didn't really change the average. So on this next solve here, it seemed like it had a lot going on, but really, again, there wasn't too many short faces. So what I ended up going here was blue. 2 moves to this TCLL, which was a decent case, but had I done this scramble again, I definitely would have done something differently. Still holding it the same way, I would have canceled into this LEG1 here. So this is what I had, and I would have done something like this. And that definitely would have been a lot faster. It probably could have been like a low 1, something like that. So that definitely could have been improved upon. This next one here I was kind of mad about because I easily saw this TCLL layer here, and it was a pretty easy case. And so I was really expecting that to be a pretty good solve. I ended up getting a 1.3 on this. Oh, by the way, the first 2 solves were a 1.7 and a 1.6. So this one was a 1.3. I even predicted the AUF for this, but I honestly just locked up for some reason on the last couple of moves. And so it definitely would have been like a sub 1, like a 0.8 or a 0.9. Which would have made the average a little lower, but I mean, nothing major. I was just a little mad at that point because I didn't know what the rest of my solves were going to be, and I figured that the sub 1 would have helped a lot too. So for the fourth solve, at this point, I kind of realized that basically I just needed like one more 1-second solve, and it would have been sub 2, and at that point I was going to be okay with my performance in finals. So here, I also kind of started hearing some cheering from the other stages, so I kind of figured there would be an easy scramble coming up. So on red here, what I saw is that you could basically solve this corner here and then insert like this. And then those last 3 moves that you did are actually the first 3 moves of this CLL case here. So this is what I was at, and I could have just finished like this with no AUF. So I turned it pretty conservatively there just to make sure, because I knew all I needed to get my best solve was like a 1.2, so that's what I ended up getting. I got a 1.2. Again, that could have been faster had I been going for something a little more risky, but I decided to just play it safe and make sure I got my best solve, and I did. And so at that point I had actually guaranteed the win, but like I didn't know that, so it was a 158 average after that solve. So this was the last scramble here. This was another pretty easy one. I immediately saw red down white here, and then I could just do the simple CLL, and then I would be done. So that's what I ended up doing. It was a 1.4. Again, it could have been a little bit faster, but I was just playing it a little safer. And at that point, I figured that I probably won because it was a 1.4 average. So I was really excited with that. Had I done this solve again, I probably would have, if I was going for something a little faster, I would have done that same CLO, but I would have done it from like this angle, because if I had done it here, I could have canceled into the algorithm a little more, and that would have been a little faster. Or I could have done the other solution I did and still gotten like a lower time. But I was definitely playing it safer on those last 2 solves to make sure that I got a good average and definitely podiumed. So overall, I'm really excited with my performance at Nationals. Besides the 2 averages that I just went over, I also got a 156 average in the second round. And then in the third round, I ended up getting a 2.0 average. that placed me 15th, but I was really happy to finally make it in the finals again. That also could have been definitely a better sub 2. I, for some reason, messed up the last solve that it was a 2 we faced, but I'm just glad I got in the finals and was able to perform well.